Welcome to Stop Wasting Your Wine, a wine review podcast dedicated to helping you discover great wines with great value for every occasion. On this episode, we review
2 port wines, the Fonseca Bin 27 and the Taylor Fladgate 20-year-old Tawny Port.
I love that we're going from 0 port wines to all the port wines on this show. We're not just like dipping our toe in. We're just like, hey, let's really just dive in.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, I don't think I've ever had port before. I'm aware of port.
Yeah, I've had port a couple of times, and I'm going to be honest, I've never had one that I've liked.
Ooh, coming.
Bodes well for you.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
I think I've had it, when you do, not that I do this all the time, but if you've ever done a wine pairing with a meal, and I feel like they always kind of end it on a port with your dessert. Naturally, it makes sense, but I feel like that's kind of like the only time where I've done it. So no extensive knowledge here, not a lot to go off of, but I think this is great. This is a perfect time of year. I mean,
Yep.
Folks up north, you're starting to get cozy, go inside. It's getting cold out there.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of just like the perfect time to start kind of thinking about port. We could drink it down here too. It's supposed to have a little chill on it, so that goes well with the Florida heat. So I think anybody, it's the feeling in the air, that says it's port time. So I think this is a appropriate episode here.
I gotta be honest, for a wine that I've never had, I don't think there's another style of wine that I have such strong connections in my brain to. I'm like, port. People in England drink port. Like, I feel like Churchill drank port.
do.
I feel like I should have a cigar. I'm supposed to be by a fireplace. I put on a tweed blazer.
You are looking nice.
Thank you. I got a whole.
Oh my! God.
Okay.
I feel very British.
What is this?
Man.
I
Sure,
don't
it's
know.
taking a turn for the worse.
I've never had port, but I feel like it's a British person thing. Question of the day, is this a British person thing?
Why wasn't I invited to the cast party after whatever weird production you're putting on right now?
Oliver Twist.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you were searching for in your brain. You just couldn't land it.
Yeah. I couldn't think of it, but that was exactly what I had in my head.
Uh-huh.
And if you're listening, Aaron just put on what kind of hat is that?
That's a scally cap, my friend.
Scally
or a
cap.
news.
Scally
some
cap.
people call it like a newsboy cap.
Yeah, that's what I would call it. Because
Okay.
if I was listening and not watching, I would need you to say newsboy cap. And then everybody who didn't know what a scally cap, is that right?
So now everyone knows.
Now they know. And now they're
know.
envisioning it. Yeah.
Fun fact: this was my grandfather's.
Oh, that's very cool.
Oh, very nice.
I got that. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, now I feel bad about the Oliver Twist bit.
No, it's okay. He was alive then. All right. So
Hold on, but one more thing before we move on from outfits. Joel,
Yeah.
I appreciate that you're
Oh my
wearing
God.
what seems like a lovely black t-shirt, which, is the prime podcast outfit, in my humble opinion.
I was running a little late and I didn't think about it. I got on. As soon as I got on and I saw you, I was like, oh my God, I am stepping on hallowed toes here.
No,
I'm wearing a
love
black
it.
shirt, but I have some writing on mine, okay? It's not
No,
straight up
I
black.
boo.
I couldn't see the writing below
Yeah.
the way you are on the screen. That's a shame. That
I don't know how
breaks my
your
heart.
videos are set up, but for me, I'm in the middle, and you two are flanking me on these videos,
Yeah.
so I feel like I have security for this episode. So I'm
You
pretty
do.
pissed about that.
That's exactly what it is. You're like you're a footballer turned like television guy, You're on your way to the studio right now and we're protecting you.
This is the classiest episode we've ever done. There we go.
That's right.
Amazing.
Drinking a
Let's
classy
keep it-
beverage too.
Let's keep it that way. Yeah. Let's keep this
Yeah.
one highbrow. Okay, guys? I know sometimes we go low. We're going to keep this one highbrow. Only quality above the board jokes. Speaking of hopefully quality above the board, let's talk about these wines, man, because I feel like I have a lot to learn. We're doing 2. So let's talk about what we're going to be experiencing today. Aaron, can you tell us a little bit more about these 2 ports that we'll be enjoying?
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked because not only are we doing 2 ports, we're doing 2 what feels like are going to be very different ports. And I think that's going to give us, for only doing, 1 episode on this in our first port episode, it wouldn't do justice to just have 1 port on, give our take on it and then move on. We need some comparative points, especially for a type of wine that a lot of us don't have any experience with or a very limited amount of experience. So our first wine that we have today is the Fonseca Bin 27. It is from Douro, Portugal, which is a requirement of port. And the varietals that make this up actually for both ports are the same. So it is Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinta Barroca, Tinta Roriz, Tinto Cow, and Tinta Amarela. And so this first one is aged at least 4 years in neutral oak. And the cost of this first bottle is about $15 to $20. And the ABV on this bottle is about 20%, with the average ABV for port being between 19 and 22%. So that's our first bottle. Right. Obviously, entry-level cost, 4 years aged.
Entry-level style, too. Let's just be clear. The first one is a ruby port. And
what does that mean exactly?
It's just the style, and really it has a lot to do with the color of the wine. But the second one we're drinking is a tawny port, which is aged a lot longer, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's also, the name kind of based on color.
Well, so ruby port and tawny port has to do with the style.
Cool. Style. Yep.
Awesome. So as Colin just alluded, our second bottle is a heavier hitter. This is the Taylor Fladgate 20-year-old tawny port. So again, from Douro, it is the same varietal collection, even though when you hold these up, and this is kind of amazing with the aging, and for those that are watching, you'll see that these are two very different color glasses of wine.
Mm-hmm.
But once again,
one kind of looks ruby, the other one kind of looks tawny.
Weird.
Whoa. That's cool.
But the same exact varietal breakdown. And this is aged, as in the name, at least 20 years in neutral oak. And this bottle will run you closer to $50 to $60 and is also 20% ABV. So 2 bottles of port, 2 different price ranges, 2 different sets of aging criteria. So we should have, a different experience with them. I'm excited about that.
I feel like we should call out too. Sometimes I feel like port comes in the little 375s. This is all, those prices were for 750s. So for full size bottles. So Good call. Just one thing to note there.
And I do love the bottles, by the way. Just to say aside, they're very stylish. The Taylor Fladgate has like this nice matte finish to the glass. It gives it like a little, half finish. I feel like this would be a nice gift bottle. I'm just saying, if you like port, it's a pretty bottle.
And I do love the fact, going over that too, 2 very different presentations of port. So cool that we're going to see kind of 2 different ends of the spectrum here. We'll be able to kind of pick out what we like, don't like, what's different between the 2. So love when we do that. We don't always do a side by side, and I think that's pretty neat. So looking forward to that. And before we even get into the wine here, we're going to start doing something a little bit new. We're going to introduce the Stop Wasting Your wine question of the week. Okay, so this is every week we're going to throw just a little. It's not going to be a big, big brain teaser or anything like that. It's just going to be a question that we want to throw out to you all listening. Going to be pretty straightforward, but we want you to let us know what you think. Hop on Instagram and give us your thoughts on things. We really do want to know what our listeners are drinking and thinking. So this week's wine question of the week, port wine. Just tell us what you think. It's new for us. It might not be new for you, the listener. So, we're experimenting with 2 great ports, hopefully, on this show. Tell us about your favorites. Are we missing out? Should we dive a little bit deeper into port wines in some upcoming episodes? So share with us. Let us know what you think, and your comment might be in next week's episode. We'll take a look back and talk about the feedback that we get, and it'll form some of our conversation in upcoming chats. So like I said, drop it into Instagram. Let us know what you're thinking. Looking forward to hearing from you. What do you guys think? Should we go ahead and give them a try?
Nah, just talk about it.
Yeah, we'll just talk about it.
All right, straight to learning segment.
Yeah.
Time to drop some knowledge.
No. Let's go back. Let's drink it. That's what the people are here for. That's what I'm here for. Let's try these wines. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Tastes like wine.
All right, so the first one we're going to try is going to be the Fonseca Bin 27. This is the 4-year aged in neutral oak. Let's give this thing a go.
Does everybody have their tiny glasses? Port usually served in dessert wine glasses, so That's if you ever go out, you'll usually get it in a weird little glass.
I even have these great port wine glasses from
You didn't use
my grandma. Do you guys want to see them? They're so cool. Maybe I'll use them.
Yeah, I got my
Hold
grandpa's
on.
cap. You got your grandma's glasses?
Time out. I'll be right back. Check out these bad boys. Ready? How fancy are
Those
they?
are fantastic. They're so little.
Right? That's what I'm talking
That's
about.
awesome.
I do feel kind of like a giant.
Yeah, I don't have dessert glasses. I'm annoyed at myself. I probably could have got it for us, but I do have these like neat little. They're like half flutes, but they're like kind of rounded, so it seemed about right.
I will say this is going to be very hard to swirl and smell.
Very hard to swirl.
So while I figure that out over here, I just spilled it on me while I was doing that. Why don't one of you guys go first and tell me what you're getting on the nose?
Yeah, so I'm getting like a ton of really rich, dark fruits. Like dark cherry, dark plum, and then I get that smell that I get in all port that makes me not have liked any of the ports that I've liked so far. Which is not. It's just that's a me thing. That's not. It's a. So I don't know. What are you guys picking up?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you're saying, and you get that. What I think is that sweetness coming right off the top, right? And is reminiscent of the Takai and the ice wine that we've had from that high sugar content. But there's this other like heavier smell to it that was not on the Takai, was not on the ice wine. Like this has that. Honestly, quite frankly, when I compare smelling this to like the wines that we normally smell and like smelling a glass of bourbon, like I might associate this closer to what I'm getting off a glass of bourbon than a glass of wine,
The only thing that I will say to that though too is I feel like it maybe in the fact that it's all very like deep and warm. But to me, I'm not getting a lot of the barrel here. It's the really aged fruits. To me, it's the raspberries that are kind of on their last leg. They're still good. They're really sweet. That's what's punching me. And I think we're gonna have to put on. I know this isn't our typical thing. I think we're gonna have to put on our port hats here and approach this a little bit differently than we typically do.
Yeah, I think on the ruby, the wine really shows through. Like it smells like a really nice wine. Mm-hmm. Like it has a lot of those, I think, overripe almost, almost macerated. Like, you kind of even cooked type fruit sense. But it's a nice mix of like darker fruit and red fruit. I think raspberry was a good call. Those cherries, you could go red and black for those. Quite a bit going on as far as just complexity is concerned. There's a lot to unpack there. But you do get the alcohol too. I think the warmth, maybe, Aaron, is what you're experiencing with the, as far as comparing it to a whiskey is concerned. But the flavors to me smell like just a really bold red wine.
All right, let's drink it.
I actually like that a lot more than I thought I would. That flavor that I get in port isn't as strong as I thought it was going to be on the nose. It's kind of backed off a little bit, but you get all of those fruits, and they're so intense. The intensity of fruit here is just mind-blowing. It's just like, the overripe, the cooked, all of that really comes through as far as the fruit profile is concerned. Mm-hmm. And then, you have to call it the sweetness, because this is definitely a dessert wine. I mean, it hits you right away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that we had the Takai and had the ice wine on the show, because it gives me a little bit of a reference point with that sweetness, and that is definitely there. But that's kind of where the comparison to those wines stop.
Totally.
Yeah. And after that, there's just so much more of like that grittier, darker, like those wines. I'm like, oh, this is very sweet, and I feel like I am having an ice cream, and like. This wine is like, I would like this with something. Like, to me, it's like I would, like, I feel like I should have a cigar in my hand. I feel like I should be eating ice cream. I should be doing something with this, because all those flavors are there and they're very complementary. But there's just an aspect of, I want this to be part of something else. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm thinking? I totally agree with everything you just said. I think, and I liked how you compared it to the Takai, thank you. And you said it stops somewhere. I think where it stops is the Takai had that really big burst of acid that made it like a different experience. And then I think that's where this one probably is medium, but it's not, which I think is balancing it, but it's not so much that it's like becoming part of the experience and cutting some of the sweetness. So we're experiencing all of that like to its entirety, which, not a negative thing, but just the difference I think that we might be talking about.
Yeah, I think this has some nice acid, but I think the main difference, which obviously is the tannin. There's still a bunch of tannin in this wine, where the others were white wine-based dessert wine. So you're not going to find any tannin in those. And that adds an extra layer of structure that I think weighs everything down, right? Because it's already heavy with the extra alcohol. There's a ton of body. So I think where the other wines were like super almost acid-driven, while this still has some really nice acid, there's also so much other structure happening here with the sugar that it's a completely different experience as far as structure is concerned.
I think you said that so much better than me. I think that's where my brain was trying to get to, using a word like gritty. I'm just like, there's like the tannins are there, but it's still so sweet that it's just kind of like that sweetness with that like additional grip and those like overripe flavors that you're naming. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Quite a bit
Totally
to
agree.
unpack there.
For sure.
Super cool sip. And I'm actually surprised I like it as much as I'm enjoying it.
I'm actually saying, like, I'm adapting the way I drink wine as I'm sipping this. Because like normally we'd be pouring a bottle of wine and I'd be like having these full glasses and swishing and this I'm just kind of like sipping it. I'm sipping a little bit and I'm enjoying it.
For sure.
I'd like a book in my hand right now. I'm wearing the right blazer. There's just this very. I can see why people can get into this, is what I'm saying. I'm gonna leave it there. We should try the other one, but
you would fit very well in a very mahogany-rich room right now with a port.
I wish I could afford more mahogany.
Nice port.
Right now, I just have a Kia.
It's great.
Something.
All right, love it. I'm excited to try the different side of everything. Let's jump into now the Taylor Fladgate. This is the 20-year aged in neutral oak, and this is the Tawny. Okay, so let's get into it. And yeah, Aaron, you are doing, I think, the first thing that we should all do. We don't often talk about color, but boy, different color, isn't it?
And just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous color. Like, this just looks fancy. It looks super high end. You put this in a nice glass, it really just the color elevates the experience. I love the color. I love the taste. But
I was saying to Colin before we started recording, you see so many videos online of people opening 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old bottles of wine and pouring out, and they're hoping they're not corked and all this. But one of the first things they do is, when they pour out those older wines, they hold them up and they have that kind of like orangey rust color to them, with the oxidation. And this is a 20-year-old wine, and one of the first things, it's the same exact combination of varietals, but it already has 20 years on it, and it has that kind of starting that orangey rust color to it, and that's really cool. Yeah. See, this is definitely the oldest wine that we've had on the show so far, by the way.
Yeah,
for sure, no doubt.
I think that's true. All right, what are you getting on the nose?
Completely different experience
wild.
Than the Ruby. I mean, just wildly different. I mean, the Ruby was super fruit forward. This is nutty. You get some like toffee and caramel notes.
I'm so glad we're doing these next to each other, by the way. I would not have been able to appreciate the potential differences in port without putting these two next to each other.
No, 100. I totally agree with that. What are you guys getting? I'd love to hear what you guys are getting.
I mean, I'm right there. The toffee was that thing that I couldn't, some of those smells you have locked in your brain. And they're like, what is that? What does that smell? And then you said toffee, and I was like, oh, that's what it is. It reminds me of like those toffee candies, like those old school caramel candies that your grandma might have had that, someone gives you, you're like, oh man, that's a very specific smell and flavor to it. And that is the primary thing that's coming off this glass to me.
Okay, question. This might be a dumb question. Is toffee the same as butterscotch? Because that's what's punching me right now. I keep saying
in the
punching.
Same
I don't
family.
know why. Yeah,
I would say same family. Yeah, I don't think it's exactly the same. The toffee butterscotch people are going to come at me if I'm wrong about that.
Stop wasting your candy.
Big toffee is pissed right
now. Yeah, so don't quote me, but I think it's similar. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's what I've been sitting here thinking.
For sure.
But you're
very
right,
little,
it's so different. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very little fruit, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could pick any fruit out of this. Maybe some dried fruit, maybe some dried peach.
I was thinking apricot.
Apricot, 100%. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Right there with you.
And Joel, the research department just got back to me. Just so you know, the difference between butterscotch and toffee is mostly how they're cooked and presented. They have the same base ingredients, butter and brown sugar, but butterscotch is cooked at a lower temperature, and so it's softer and chewier. And toffee is cooked at a higher temperature, so it's that harder, brittle. So but it would make sense that the smells are clicking in our brain because it's that brown sugar. Like that's actually brown sugar is the thing that now that I'm reading that is actually the smell that's popping out to me right now.
Yeah,
look at us.
Crazy. It's really so unique as far as wine is concerned. I know you can find some of these flavors in some other aged red wines, but this is the first time I've experienced anything to this extreme.
Yeah, so my brain is really breaking right now. I'm having like core memory flashbacks to like holiday cooking time. Like the only time you bring out brown sugar, right? And just like, oh, wild. I need a minute.
I'm definitely sitting somewhere as a very small person in a big chair eating a Werther's Original. That is happening. Yeah. I love that. Okay, we're already having
we're all just like
and we haven't even drank it yet.
Into our childhood. Yeah.
Listener, if you'll all give us about 15, we need to lay down and just really
have some repressed memories coming back right now. I'll give you a minute.
Exactly. Let's drink this thing. Interesting.
Very interesting. Okay.
It's just an entirely different dessert wine experience.
And I was just going to say, and I think an entirely different taste than smell too. Like very, very, very different, which is pretty cool. Like, hello, little bit of fruit poking out all of a sudden.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I agree. I think that apricot, dried peach, whatever, that realm of fruit really pops forward. That's the one thing you get. I think, and again, I was expecting more of this on the Ruby, but I can almost taste the oxidative approach to this wine, which sees a lot of oxygen. That's just how it gets the color. It's how it gets those flavors. But it has that kind of, and I don't know if it's volatile acidity, but to me it reminds me of when you leave a wine open for a little bit too long, and it's not quite like fully vinegar, but it's starting to get some of those too much oxygen notes, if that makes sense to anybody. And I'm getting a little bit of that in here. But I also am super sensitive to that. Like, I don't like that at all. So, it might not be for some like that offensive, but for me, I can really, really taste it.
It's funny because I'm not sure I'm putting my finger on that necessarily, but I was going to say that there's a certain like brightness to this one that I wasn't expecting. And oddly, that is in this one, the 20-year, that was not in the 4-year, that I really wasn't expecting. I don't know if it's maybe that, if it's like the slight, almost like bitterness of that taste that you're talking about, Colin, but that's what I've been trying to figure out over here too.
And you have to think about, too, the structure on this wine is going to be completely different aging 20 years in a barrel. A lot of the tannin, that kind of intense tannin that we had on the first one, is going to have fallen out. So there's definitely some other forces acting on the experience, I would say. It does feel a little bit lighter, I would agree. I think the acid is still nice and zippy. But, it's a totally different experience from the first one. Crazy how age can make that much of a difference.
I mean, yeah, and I think I do think that there is an elegance to this one. At the first one, again, we're looking at a $15, $20 bottle of wine versus a $50, $60 bottle of wine in 4 years versus 20 years. I think there's an aspect of the first one where you're like, feels like an introductory glass to port, right? Like, now that you have the comparison of the two, you're like, this is what port can be as a dessert wine. And then this next glass feels more like, if you are someone who enjoys this would probably be more the direction you want to lean into if you wanted to invest a little heavier in. Because I could see myself sipping this as a late night drink rather than pouring a glass of bourbon or a glass of, something like that. Like, it feels like that kind of, it's a little heavier, it's a little warmer. It obviously packs a greater punch than a glass of wine as far as ABV goes. So I can see that in this experience, where the first one felt like more of like I would have a small glass of this at the end of a dinner. But the 20-year feels just a little bit more, like a little more meaty, a little heavier.
I get what you're saying. Could you imagine right now to putting a whole bunch of liquid in a barrel and being like, okay, this is going to be ready in 2045.
Yeah, right. That's crazy. It is crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
Well, it must not be a big deal for them because, like, we're looking at, Fladgate, and they've been around since 1692, right? Like this port house predates the country we're sitting in. So, there's this aspect of if they're doing this every year, that means they're bottling a case every year, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's just wild.
I mean, isn't that no? But I think that's awesome. Like, I think that's really cool. It's like every year they get to open up, something from 20 years ago. And I'm sure if we went through the portfolio, they probably have
the portfolio.
The portfolio.
The portfolio.
Well
longer aged. So
yeah.
Sorry,
cool.
I had to get that little pun in there.
No, I think that's great.
Totally
it's
took
very
it.
cool.
You were making such a great point, and then I came in with that stupid thing. God.
No, you
I
killed
love
it.
it.
Get your head in the game, Joel.
And just to your point, Joel, this says bottled in 2024 on the back of the bottle. So, this wine probably went into barrel, 2004, which pretty damn cool to think about.
Yeah. Think about where you were in 2004. We don't have to talk about it, but just think about it.
Yeah.
Didn't even know you jabronis yet.
Yeah, it was high school. High school.
God. I call that
Like,
the
I'm
dark
just like-
ages.
I'm like going down a rabbit hole right now, and like you can buy their 1975 bottle, right?
Oh yeah.
Like you can
Amazing.
really you can go into you can go down a rabbit hole. Like if you're a port person
So
and you're
cool.
like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Unlimited.
Whew.
Pretty cool.
Very
All right,
cool
we're
color on
gushing
that
over all the work and the love that was put into this, and obviously there was, but we've already been so introspective in this time. Let's put this down for a second. I would like to learn a little bit more about just port in general, and kind of both variations of what we're drinking. So let's do some wine drops, and then we'll come back.
Time to drop some knowledge. Wine drops.
All right, so we jumped right in. We've been enjoying and experiencing these ports, but we haven't really taken a second to just talk about port in general. So, Aaron, just kind of a question for you. What makes port a port? What is it, and where does it come from?
Sure. And again, it's so funny because I feel like so many people associate port with like little old British men, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, port is a fortified wine from Portugal's Douro Valley. So, the producers add grape spirit during fermentation, which stops the process early, keeps natural sweetness, and then boosts the alcohol. And this method defines, the richness and dessert style characteristics that we find in port, and that kind of separates it from every other wine that we've had. And so that's, that's kind of the basics of it. But as we've already kind of learned today, within the world of port, there are different styles. So, Colin, today we're drinking ruby port and tawny port, and those are the two most common styles. But what is the difference between the two of them?
Yeah, so the main difference comes down to where and how it's aged. Ruby port spends most time in larger containers with limited oxygen, which helps keeps its bright fruit and deep color and youthful profile. And then tawny ages in smaller oak barrels with regular oxygen contact, which allows it to get to the color that it is. It also helps soften the wine a little bit, especially from the ruby. And then it brings in some of those caramel flavors, the toasted nuts, a lot of what we experienced as we were trying the wine we were trying this evening. So, that's the main difference as far as how one wine becomes either a tawny or a ruby. But Joel, tonight we're actually drinking a reserve ruby. So what is the difference between a regular ruby and a reserve ruby?
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's kind of similar to the difference between ruby and tawny. A lot of it comes down to age, but also when it comes to reserve ruby and ruby, big difference too is just really the quality of the base wines that we're using. So better base wines going into the barrels, it's going to spend a longer time in the barrel before it's released. And, kind of what you would expect happens, right? This is like we've kind of experienced in some other longer aged wines. It adds the depth, it adds structure, and it allows the wine to kind of take on that smoother, more mature kind of feel to it while keeping that bright, juicy character. So you can just kind of think of it as it's ruby port, a little bit more refined, a little bit more elevated. So Aaron, with all of that in mind, and like you said, Colin, we're drinking reserve ruby tonight. What specifically should we be looking for in a reserve ruby as far as flavor and experience?
All right, so I'm looking at my notes now. So let's see how we did.
Yes.
So let's think back to what we actually called out in our tasting and what we have in our notes. So a reserve ruby port, we should have that concentration of dark fruit like plum, blackberry, cherry. Nice job.
Nailed it.
And that sweetness in there should feel rich, but balanced enough by the acidity and the alcohol to keep it from feeling heavy. And that's, I think, Joel, you were talking a lot about that earlier too, right? Yeah. How the acidity and the alcohol is kind of like cutting through that heaviness. So it's not like too much of the sweetness. The structure should be a fuller body, slightly firmer tannins than your standard ruby. So that's interesting to think about, right? So if we went, we have Ruby Reserve. I wonder if we had a standard ruby, how that would be different. And then we should have subtle notes of cocoa and warm spice.
Ooh, okay.
I look forward to getting back into it.
I want to get back into that and kind of look for those. And, and it should stay smooth, vibrant, and it should not be syrupy. Which, interestingly, I've talked to a couple of people when I talked about this episode, like, have you ever tried port? And the folks who were like, ooh, I don't really like it, kind of named the syrupiness of port. So it makes you kind of wonder, like, did they have, good quality port or not? So interesting.
But just to touch on the syrupy part, I wonder if that's also like a combination of alcohol and tannin to make a heavier body than they were expecting. Especially if you've only ever tried another type of dessert wine like an ice wine or a Takai, it might not be syrupy because it has the acidity, but it also doesn't have the structure and body of this wine. So it's really interesting to me, at least tasting it so far, what an impact that plays on the wine itself.
Yeah, and if like you don't have a touch point, I can totally see the first thing someone naming is like, oh, there's a syrupiness to it.
Right, yeah.
I mean, there definitely is, too. Like you said, like if you're comparing it to typical wine, there's a syrupiness to it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a thickness for sure. But it's not like
funny.
It's not syrupy to the point where it's like weird.
Totally.
Like I feel like syrupy is here at least used as a negative term, and I don't think that this hits the point where it's like overly viscous or anything like that. The sweetness isn't cloying like a syrup would be, but it does have a little more weight to it. I would totally agree with that.
Sure. Yeah. And you would have to wonder, like, on the spectrum, because I'm sure there are cheaper, lower quality ports out there. If on the spectrum and you think about the experience of that, I imagine there's probably some pretty rough ones out there, at which point, like, that would weigh heavy. And in comparison between the two, I would say the 20-year has less of that than the 4-year. So I think that there is an aspect of that. But getting into that, Colin, we talked about what folks should be expecting with the Ruby. On, your normal experience, what should folks be expecting when they're trying a Tawny port?
Yeah, and we've actually called out a lot of this stuff, which I always love. But with Tawny port, you can expect caramel, toasted nuts, which I totally get on the nose of this wine. I didn't taste the toasted nuts as much on the palate, but I think that might have tie into that caramel toffee note. Dried fig, which is super interesting, orange peel. The sweetness should feel more smooth and integrated rather than bold and juicy like the Ruby, which I totally think it does. It's not as an intense experience as far as structure and body is concerned, but totally even more intense as far as flavor is concerned, in my opinion anyway. Structure will probably be a little bit softer, silkier, with less aggressive tannin because of age. The body should feel round and smooth and mellow, and the finish should lean warm, nutty, and refined rather than fruit-driven or intense, which I think this totally does. I mean, 100%. The finish on this wine is that caramel toffee note for days. So super interesting. I think we're experiencing a lot of what you should expect out of a Tawny in the Tawny we're drinking this evening.
Yeah. We did pretty damn well, I think.
Yeah, I did.
Especially for a bunch of
we know what we're talking about.
Nice. Yeah, that's true.
All right, so I do think we were pretty spot on with everything that we called out. But a couple of those notes in there kind of got me thinking. So I'm really excited about going back to these for one more try before we roll into our reviews. So let's give them just one quick revisit here. Let's start with the Fonseca Bin 27. This is the 4-year Ruby Reserve. That another visit. Anything you guys want to call out?
I mean, just so once again, I think it's super helpful that we've had these two wines next to each other. Yeah. I have such a minimal point of reference for port. And quite frankly, I think today's learning segment was super helpful as well when I am analyzing this from a standpoint of, is this good port or not?
Yeah.
Because I don't have, years of trying different ports like the way we've been trying different wines for so long. So super helpful in that sense. And I think, both these wines bring something different to the table. I'm excited to get into it.
Excellent. Yeah. No, totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing on the Ruby, I think it, honestly, with a little bit of time under air, it tastes more like wine to me. It kind of tastes less like what I would expect a port to taste like, which it's still obviously a port with the structure and the sugar and the alcohol, but it tastes more like the red wine for me anyway, which I actually am enjoying quite a bit, but still all those really dark fruit flavors that we were calling out before. So some time under air is kind of interesting with the Ruby anyway.
Definitely an effect. Okay, how about this Tawny? How about this Taylor Fladgate 20-year Tawny?
So I'm glad we went over the tasting notes on this one because orange peel now is obviously orange peel. Like,
duh.
Duh. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, too, I think it's kind of settled down. I'm surprised, I'm not sure if you decant port and like if you were to drink an entire bottle with friends, but I'm enjoying both of these actually more now than when I first popped the cork maybe an hour ago. So, I think some air has helped kind of loosen them up a little bit.
I agree, and I'll tell you what I'm experiencing more here too in this Tawny is a lot more of those oak spice notes.
Mm-hmm.
Picking up on that a lot. When we first drank it, I was shocked at how kind of light and still the fruit was very expressive in there. And now the first thing that I'm noticing is the spice, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. It's such a unique flavor. For it to be so front and center, it's really cool.
Yeah. So, we've been talking so much about, the taste and structure and whether or not we should decant. So I did a little deep dive with our research department. And it seems a general consensus online, especially when you have like a 20-year-old port, you should absolutely consider decanting it, 2 to 3 hours before you drink it.
And what that suggests to me too is this might be one of those things too, that if we go back every 20, 30 minutes, we get a cool new experience, which I think is always fun. All right. I think we've done it. Great sort of analysis on things. I'm really intrigued to see where you guys are going to place this. So let's do it.
Yeah, but did they like it? It's time for the review.
Yeah, I'll start off because if that's okay with everyone,
please. Love it. Dive right on in.
And I kind of want to do these side by side if that's okay, because what I'm feeling with these is that. To me, they are two different experiential wines, right? Like, so the first one, the Bin 27, obviously is a $15 and $20 wine. I think it's a great starter to get into port. I'm enjoying it. It's nice. Based on the richness and the sweetness, I would definitely want to do this at the end of a meal. I would want to, try this after a steak or, while I'm sitting. Actually, it's like there's that coffee flavor to it. I almost want to have this like my end of the meal coffee and then have a little glass of this too. But I would definitely say this definitely feels like a starter port getting into there. Now, I think, we don't have a lot of comparisons, but analytically, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Like if you like port, like this is going to be the starter port for you. The flavor profile that we named lines up with, what our research has said should be there. So I do think this is probably a must share for that style of wine. And I would say that, on the flip side, on the other side of things, the Taylor Fladgate is definitely a more elegant wine. It's definitely a bigger investment. It's, $50 to $60 to get. And this is something that I would sit with and drink at night. Like I'm having the vibes. Like I would pour a glass of this and open a book and have a cigar and sit by a fire. I wish I had any of those things. But like, it's just there is this kind of weightier, more serious vibe to it, equivalent to when I pour myself a glass of bourbon at night. It's a 20% ABV. It's a heavier hitter. Like, you're not going to be drinking this all night. But I would absolutely say, like, if you are a port drinker, like, this is absolutely a must share to me. And this is something that I would consider making part of kind of my, routine or my experience, or something that I would like to get more into. As a side note, my one hesitance was, how long can you open this? I've had bottles of bourbon on my bar that are there for months. And the thing about wine is, you open a bottle of wine, normally you got a few days to get the best out of it, right? And so do I like port enough to like drink this whole bottle in 2 to 3 days? So I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and because of the
It'd be so difficult at 20%.
Right? And like, my wife is not drinking this with me, so it's just me with a bottle of port going to town. I'm probably not feeling great. That being said, with the fortification of the wine and the style of the wine, as long as you keep it in the fridge, you might want to move it into like a smaller container so you don't have a ton of oxygen in that space, and and exposing the wine to air, you can keep the port longer, and it can last you weeks, if not months, if you do it right. So to me, that makes it a lot more plausible for something for me to get into.
Yeah.
100%.
How cool also to be like, if you have friends over for a dinner and then you're like, oh, anybody want to have a little bit of this port, this really cool 20-year aged port, just to finish off this meal? Like, that's a cool move.
It is really cool.
Right there.
Totally.
Yeah. Love it. Colin, what do you think?
Fits the jacket.
That's right.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Very nice. Yeah. Coming into this, I was not a port drinker. Coming out of this, I am still not a port drinker. That being said, these are both very good. I've enjoyed both of them way more than I thought I would, to be honest. You can tell the quality in each of these is absolutely there. I think if you're looking for a nice dessert wine, the Bin 27 at $19 to $20 is a great value, as an intro to port. I think for both of these, must shares. Like, again, I'm really enjoying them much more than I thought I would, even though just the style of wine I don't love. I think there's so much going on in both. Two totally different experiences, but two really, really nice experiences. So yeah, total must shares. Even at the $50, $60 price point for the 20-year-old, if you want something special, something cool, totally worth the splurge on that. So two must shares for sure.
And good on you, man. Like, that's what it's all about, right? We're not gonna love every style of wine that we drink on the show. We're gonna drink a lot of different styles, and there's gonna be some that match what we like, and there's going to be some that are good in every technical way, and it's just not your style of wine that you love. And so it can be a must share without it being what I love. Joel, bring us home.
See, it's funny. I'm gonna be slightly different than you guys, but I agree with everything you've said, especially on the points of enjoying the heck out of both of these. Appreciating the different styles of both. At the end of the day, though, I think we have, and this isn't a negative thing, I think we have the purest example of a casual sipper and a must share that we've ever had on this show. And to me, I think the Bin 27, the Ruby Reserve, is a casual sipper. And I mean that because I think this is something that can be a daily drinker. And I think it is something that is really nice and really enjoyable. If you're, and I know that sounds kind of weird saying daily drinker to a port, but if you're a daily port drinker, this might be
plenty of people
thing,
that drink port on the daily.
Absolutely, sure. But, clearly the Taylor Fladgate too, just, I think you can see the result of the, increased time. Makes sense that there's the increased price tag. It really does make it just such to me, a much more interesting and just so much to pick apart and so much to enjoy in there that it truly warrants the must share label to me. So, I think in this case, I want casual sipper to be viewed in a very positive light because I think it's a great thing. But to me, these are they perfectly encapsulate both of those segments. So that's what I'm going with on these. Enjoy them very much, both of them. if I'm going to drink one right now after this, it's going to be this Taylor Fladgate. And boy,
I disagree. I'm
really?
drinking the
See, I love
27.
that.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, great. No, it's more. Not that it's more interesting. It's just more my style. Like I like the.
'Cause it's more like
the
wine.
flavor. Yeah, it's more like wine. The Fladgate tastes more like port, and for somebody who doesn't like port, that's a negative.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, this is such a good example. Like these are two very different wines, two very different price tags,
Yeah.
two very different aging requirements, and preference-wise, like you guys are just landing on either side. I'm just going to drink them both at the same time, so we could, just covered it all. There it
You're
is.
going to mix them or keep them
Yeah.
separate and just
Well,
go back
that's
and
a fun
forth,
idea.
glass to glass.
Yeah. You want to see the port people come after you? Mix them. Go ahead.
Don't do it.
Average
Don't do
out.
it.
No, I won't do that. But I think they're both very tasty in two very different ways.
Yeah. Completely
Yeah, for sure.
agree. Completely agree.
100%.
So we're all, I think, fully in agreement. Not a waste of your wine. Two very cool examples
Very cool.
of the world of port. Go try them, listener. Have the same experience we did. I would recommend start with that Reserve Ruby. Go into the Tawny. Enjoy the heck out of it because you've got our stamp of approval. I think you're going to enjoy them both. Not a waste of your wine in any way, shape, or form.
Spend the $15 on the bin 27, and then if you like that, you can
Explore.
make us explore. You can make a slightly bigger investment.
For sure. A great way to put it.
I'm super relieved.
Me too.
Right?
Me 3.
Yeah. I was really worried about Colin on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. I was worried about myself.
We go into so many episodes worried about Colin.
Yeah. Why are we so worried about impressing you with our wine?
I don't know.
It's because Colin goes into every episode being like, I don't like that style of wine. Then he sits down and drinks it. He's like, that was
not
okay.
true.
It's
I
actually
like
pretty good.
I
pretty good.
like almost all styles of wine, except for not a huge port fan.
Natural wine.
Anyway,
and
I
port
digress.
wines. And you've enjoyed
Yeah.
the last two that we've had.
Right, but both very good quality.
That is very
versions
true.
And
Of
that's
each
huge.
of those.
And
We're
that's
not
what
drinking
we're all
just the
about.
standard version of,
Yeah,
of
that's
each.
right.
There's a lot of
That's
love
right.
in everyone that we're trying. I agree.
100%.
I agree.
Excellent.
Totally fair. Guys, we need to wrap this up. However, before we do that, I would love to have a quick jaunt into a game with you. Can you say it that way? I'm going to. Let's play a game.
Yeah, let's jaunt on into this game.
I'm jaunting.
We're going to play a game that we haven't played in a while, mostly because of technical difficulties. So this game is called Where's the Lie? And this is one of my favorite games because I love history. And this was a fun game because I get to read a little bit about, whatever we're learning and dive into the historical nature of it all. But, the way the game works is if Colin or Joel think that I'm lying at any point, they have to say stop and correct the lie. The problem is our internet's kind of fuzzy, so Colin kept thinking he was going first, and the internet said Joel beat him by like 5 seconds. We did a clap test, and it was way off. So
Way off.
what we're going to do is we're going to change it up a little bit because it's a great game. But what we're going to do is I am going to read, and I am going to stop us and say, okay, I just lied somewhere. Where's the lie? And I'm going to leave it to Joel and Colin to see if they can figure out where the lie was. How's that sound, gentlemen?
Let's give
Let's
it a go.
do it.
All right. And so what we're going to do is today we're going to dive into the relationship between port and the British. Because so many people associate port with England, and all we've talked about today is how it is from Portugal, the Douro Valley. And, and we got to, where did this come from? So it would be remiss of us to end this episode without making, without connecting the dots. So we're going to do that now.
Love it.
All right, gentlemen, you ready?
Yes.
Do it.
All right. So we are going to get into the strange and very British love story of port wine. It really took off after the Methuen Treaty of 1803 when
One
England...
of my favorite treaties.
One of the best treaties. The Methuen Treaty of 1803 when England and Portugal struck a deal that made the Portuguese wine dramatically cheaper in England than the French wine. And the reason they did this is because England and France were at war, and so they put an embargo on French wine, and they had to find their wine from somewhere else. Gentlemen, I lied in there somewhere. Where's the lie?
I'm going to say I don't think it was really the Methuen Treaty. That treaty, I believe, 1642.
Oh, God, here we go.
So that's...
Yeah, I'm going to say that the year was wrong. I don't remember what you said, but Taylor Fladgate was founded in 1692. I think you said the treaty was signed in the 1800s or something like that. So that, to me, seems like it doesn't fit.
A little sus.
Wow. You both nailed it. 100%. It is the Methuen Treaty of 1703. England and France were in conflict in much of the 1600s and 1700s. And so when they put that embargo on French wine, they needed to find it from somewhere else. And Portugal was a very close ally to England. So they looked in that direction. Let's continue. So the problem, however, was that Portuguese wine, especially their table wine, didn't exactly travel well. So merchants began fortifying their wine. And so many people think that port wine is made that way because people like the sweet taste and they wanted a higher ABV wine. But in reality, they fortified the wine in order to make it travel better. Gentlemen, did I lie there or did I not lie?
No lies detected.
Yeah, no lies detected. Agreed. No lies.
All right, that's correct. Yeah.
Hey.
The crazy thing of port wine is that
I actually did know that. I knew that.
The style of port wine came out of the ability to ship it on ships from Portugal to England without it going bad. And so they had to fortify it with heavier alcohol in order to get it to make the journey.
Do you think they stored it on the starboard or port side of the ship? What do you think?
I hate you, and
Do you think
I
it
bet
all went
that's
on the
related. I bet
port
we
side?
can go down a rabbit hole, and that's probably related.
You can take that out, Colin.
Good golly. No, don't take it out. Find out. All right. Let's keep going. So over the next century, British merchants established many of the major port houses. Even today, people often associate port with Winston Churchill, who was devoted to Taylor Fladgate ports. He would famously order cases and cases throughout his life. Gentlemen, I lied somewhere.
I think he would order cases, but it wasn't Taylor Fladgate.
Agreed.
Man, you guys are crushing it. You're tied 3-3. It was actually Graham's port, which was Winston Churchill's port of choice. So back in England, port became a cultural ritual, especially amongst different organizations and clubs, where it was tradition to pass the decanter counterclockwise around the circle. True or false?
False.
False. Clockwise, baby.
Yeah, that seems very un-British.
Wow, you're both right. It is a clockwise passing of the decanter. Man, you guys are on it. 4-4. Wow. Everyone's a winner right now because we're all getting smarter. All right. And of course, despite what some assume, port can be produced anywhere in Portugal as long as they follow the same fortification standards as is tradition. Put all that together and you get the wine that's Portuguese by origin, but shaped, structured, and wholeheartedly embraced by British drinking tradition. Is there a lie in that last segment?
I don't believe it can be made anywhere outside of the Douro, but I could be wrong on that.
I'm going to say no lies detected.
It couldn't have stayed tied the entire time. Colin is correct. Port wine must be produced in Douro.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, excellent. I think that was a great way to end. We learned so much. Port wine was pretty much an accident, a necessity out of, shipping wine because the French and the English keep, killing each other for like hundreds of years and they had to go to Portugal. Yeah, very cool stuff.
There you go.
Pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. That's really cool. I'm not sure if I like the fact that that game is a lot more fair now that it's not based on who has better internet in that moment.
Yeah.
Hey, 5-4 is a great ending score.
Yeah, it was good though. I like that. That was a fun game. Well done, Aaron.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually feel like we learned a lot on that too, which is pretty cool.
For sure.
I love the history stuff too. It's amazing how
It's so cool.
like wine and beer and spirits either shaped history or were so shaped by huge events in history. It's amazing how the two intersect. We could do a whole series on that, and I think we should, because there's a lot to dig into there. Well, it's nice to take a step back and think about all of that, what went into making this, So very cool.
Very cool.
Love it. Thank you, Aaron, for making that happen. Super fun. This has been really fun. It's been great. I feel like my wine horizons have been opened up a little bit. A lot to think about moving forward, a lot to try, and so much fun doing it with you guys. Thanks for being a part of it. Talking to you two, Aaron and Colin, also the listener. Thank you for being a part of it. We appreciate you coming back. Right? Come back and hang out with us.
Good stuff.
Next week as well. Hey, if you want to go back, if you want to give us some thoughts on our wine question of the week, or if you just want to hang out with us, Aaron, how can they do that?
Yep, hit us on Instagram. We're putting new content out every day. A lot of clips from the show. If you haven't yet, check us out on Instagram. Comment, follow us. If you have friends who you think might be interested in the show, please share it with them. Check out our website, stopwastingwine.com. And if you want to chat with us more, or you want to come on the show or have a bottle to recommend, email us at cheers@stopwastingwine.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you next week. And in the meantime, remember, stop wasting your wine.
Bye, y'all.
It didn't come out. It just didn't come out. It did.
Take two.
Bye.
There it is.
Bye.
There it is. It's a classic.